This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
You have a pirate already, Mike?
Whoa.
What do you mean you have a pirate already? All right, who's on the air here?
Ahoy, it's Captain Slappy.
Is this Chum Bucket?
No, it's not Chum Bucket, it's Captain Slappy.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said that already.
Aye, I'm live from Puntland.
This is one of those guys who created that National Pirate Day, Stugotz.
Yeah.
But this isn't. No.
International talk like a pirate day.
No, yeah, I'm sorry.
Get it right, dude.
So how do you feel about pirates being in the news? What's your name, Captain Slappy?
Aye, it's Captain Slappy.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot. I know you mentioned that already. So what? How do you feel about pirates being in the news so much, Captain Slappy?
Well, I'm happy for it because it sells books.
He's an entrepreneur. This is not the kind of pirate I wanted on the line.
Well, it's the kind of pirate you ended up with. Now
It really is. It's really the kind of crappy pirate our show deserves, to be honest with you.
it's the kind of pirate you deserve.
I want a Somali pirate. All right, Captain Slappy. Thank you for being always so accessible.
See, show hasn't changed.
I'm glad we emptied that.
What a hot start to that clip.
I want to replay
Can
the
I
start.
relive the start of that clip, please, one time?
You have a pirate already, Mike?
Whoa.
What do you mean you have a pirate already? All right, who's on the air here?
Ahoy, it's Captain Slappy.
Is this Chum Bucket?
No, it's not Chum Bucket, it's Captain Slappy.
Oh, I'm It's not great. Not great. Listen.
You called him Chum Bucket again later in the
Dan only knows one
Who
pirate.
is Chum Bucket?
It's the only
We
He's
pirate.
the
interviewed
other
him, too.
pirate that we had on Talk Like
It's a different pirate. We're about to have on, I think I can say this, the best boss I have ever had. I don't know how many of you saw the film.
I do believe I'm offended by that.
The film Spotlight on the investigative work that the Pulitzer Prize winning work that the Boston Globe did on the Catholic Church. He was the executive editor of the Boston Globe then, and for about a decade was the executive editor of the Washington Post as well, and has won a number of Pulitzer Prizes and wrote something here recently for The Atlantic that I want to discuss with him because I was a little surprised that he wrote it.
Did something happen with the Catholic Church?
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate all your help on that subject. Yes, that's all that matters, that Fuentes was laughing in the other room. That's great. That's what I'm going for there with, child church sex scandals.
What?
Yeah,
you have gone
too
far.
Okay, it's not the way to discuss that. And I'm fine with that being a punishment for you for an entire week. That all you have to do is produce the names of baseball players in a pirate accent.
I'm surprised Catholic to her core Jessica didn't chime in there.
Sorry, I was finishing my Kevin waffle that I was I was trying to eat during the break.
Closing loops.
What is the real name of Kevin Bacon? Is Bacon his actual last name? Did we ever?
so.
I don't think we ever discussed that yesterday.
It's probably like McConey or something like that.
I don't know if his name is actually Bacon.
The last thing I heard was Chris's John Skipper impression. Please, someone tell me what happened.
I saw by the poll. Did someone disparage the name of Kevin Bacon
Yes.
in terms of his star? He has an entire he has an entire game named after him.
Believe Amin,
what I said.
Amin called him Jamal McGlure.
It was offensive. What happened yesterday was offensive. It was blasphemous to the career of Kevin Bacon.
It was blasphemous to Tracy McGrady, who you guys try to compare him to.
I think that's what the poll results came out and said, that he was T-Mac.
So anyways, I was willing to offend John Skipper, the CEO of Meadowlark, because I do believe this is the best boss I ever had. Marty Baron, as I told you, when he was the Miami Herald, was the executive editor during a golden newspaper time, and then parlayed that into a career at the New York Times and Washington Post that was at the top of making award-winning journalism, deserved. And in The Atlantic, you have written a piece where Jeff Bezos went wrong with the Washington Post. Marty, it's good seeing you after all these years.
Yeah,
Hello.
It's been a very long time, Dan. You're looking good.
Likewise, sir. Thank you. Was it difficult for you to write this? Because you must be fascinated by what is happening in America and the way that journalism continues to be clubbed over the head, so that the place that you used to work and cherish and value gets compromised because its billionaire owner wants to be in bed with the money.
Well, it was hard to write. I mean, as you know, while I was at the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos was a really good owner. He gave us our independence. He supported us. He defended us against Donald Trump, all the threats that he received of reprisals and all of that. He stood behind us. So it was difficult for me to write now that I've become incredibly, more than disappointed. I've gone from disappointment to disillusionment to indignation, really, over what's happening there. And so, yeah, it was hard for me to write, and I've been very concerned about the direction of things at the Post. I should say, by the way, Dan, that the news reporting is really good. The news department, as you know, is separate from the opinion department. Bezos has not interfered at all in the news coverage, as far as I can tell. I've heard nothing of the sort. And every day they're producing one scoop after the next and telling the public what it needs to know about their government.
Can you take us through the corridors of power here on how it is that you get separated from the owner here? And like I said, you are an old-time journalism newspaper man. You writing this has to come from a place of indignation, because I don't think you've ever expressed ideas like this publicly, have you?
Only in the last several weeks, where I've been very disappointed. I started commenting just before the election last year, when the Washington Post when Jeff Bezos made the decision to kill an editorial endorsing Kamala Harris for president. They had been endorsing for president consistently since 1976, with only one exception, when George Bush and Michael Dukakis were the candidates. And so I felt that was the wrong decision. It came only 11 days before the election itself. I think it was a demonstration of fear on Bezos's part about reprisals from Donald Trump. I described it then in a tweet as cowardice, as cowardly and spineless. And since then there have been a number of steps that Jeff Bezos has taken that caused me a lot of concern. Amazon making $1 million donation to the inauguration, Bezos making a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago, at that dinner having conversation with Melania Trump about this supposed documentary that would be made about her life, for which she herself would be the executive producer. Amazon 2 weeks later paying $40 million for the rights to that so-called documentary, 3 times the amount of the next highest bidder. Bezos appearing on the dais during the inauguration as if he were a trophy for Donald Trump, along with all the other tech executives. Subsequently making a decision that the opinion pages would only include opinions that were consistent with his own, as he described it, as personal liberties and free markets, essentially a libertarian philosophy, it sounds like, although he did not explain it in any detail whatsoever. So it's been one thing after the next, and I've been very concerned about it. In fact, Amazon most recently reached an agreement to purchase the rights to Donald Trump's old TV show called The Apprentice, and I'm sure that undoubtedly Donald Trump will be receiving a portion of that.
In 2023, you authored the book Collision of Power, Trump, Bezos, and the Washington Post. In 2018, Bezos spoke out forcefully and eloquently against Trump's assault on the press. Quote, "If you're the president of the United States or a governor of a state or whatever, you don't take that job thinking you're not going to get scrutinized. You're going to get scrutinized, and it's healthy. It's dangerous to call the media lowlifes. It's dangerous to say that they're the enemy of the people." End quote. What changed?
Fear, I think. I can't get into his head, but I think that's really what's happened, is that, Trump during the campaign said that he would be people's retribution. He talked about seeking vengeance on his perceived political enemies. Bezos had always been perceived as a political enemy for one reason only, and that was the coverage on the editorials of the Washington Post. And so I think he was concerned that if Trump got back into power, that he would deny Amazon contracts that it has with the federal government, It has an enormous number of contracts with the federal government, particularly for cloud computing services. And also his commercial space venture, Blue Origin, was really at an inflection point. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, it finally successfully launched a rocket into space, and it was hoping to be in a position of competing directly with SpaceX. Well, SpaceX is owned by Elon Musk. Elon Musk, certainly after the election, was camped out at Mar-a-Lago, and now is camped out at the White House, basically, and has more power in this government than probably anybody but Donald Trump himself. So I think it's fear that it would have very damaging impact on Amazon's business and the business of Blue Origin, both of which depend to a large degree on contracts with the federal government.
The film Spotlight was based off of some of the fantastic investigative journalism done in your newsroom on the Catholic Church sexual abuse scandal, and famously Liv Schreiber actually played you in the film. I know you're a very serious man, but how would you grade his performance of you in that film?
I'm not always serious. I guess that movie has left me with a reputation as being someone who has no sense of humor whatsoever. So I've been working diligently since then to try to.
It's a weird one for them.
And you're not helping here by saying that. In any event, look, I was very happy with the movie. First of all, I got to be portrayed by someone who is an excellent actor, but also is taller, more fit, and better looking than I am, so that when people hear my name, they think of him, and I'm totally fine with that. So, but I think more importantly than that, I think it was a great movie. It sent a really important message, I think, about the need to have investigative reporting, about how hard it is to do investigative reporting correctly, about the need for news organizations to commit themselves to doing this kind of work, and that the public really values that on our part. And also, I think a very important message that it's important for the press and everyone really in our society to listen to people who don't have power, because they often have very powerful things to say. And we finally gave voice to the survivors of abuse who had been victimized by clergy, and those cases had been covered up for decades by the church. And finally, they were able to achieve accountability because of the work of the Boston Globe.
Marty, I'm curious, how much of Bezos's pivot is literally just a survival of the moment, meaning that this Trump regime is going to end at some point? Is it possible he'll pivot back to what he was before, or do you think this is just the new Jeff Bezos and this is how he does business?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think we'll have to wait and see. I think that my sense is that it is a survival technique, that he is trying to navigate a really difficult situation. I mean, of course, he's still executive chairman of Amazon. He does have a fiduciary responsibility to that publicly owned, publicly traded company. He also wants to see Blue Origin get off the ground, literally, and figuratively. And so he wants to stay, I believe he wants to stay out of Trump's crosshairs. I don't think this makes him necessarily an ally of Donald Trump, really. I don't put him in that category, but I think he wants to stay. He wants to not antagonize him. Basically, don't poke the bear. And I think that was evident with the decision not to run the editorial endorsement last November. Don't poke the bear. Why antagonize him if it's not really necessary, and it's not required for a news organization to run an editorial endorsement anyway? And so he rationalized that decision. I don't think the idea of independence was really the reason for the editorial. They'd run an editorial of endorsing. They endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016. They endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. Those editorials were sharply critical of Donald Trump. Bezos didn't object to those editorials. He knew that they were coming. He praised the editorial page editor at the time profusely. But now I think he just doesn't want to poke the bear. He doesn't want to antagonize Donald Trump, and he's looking for ways to stay on his good side. And So yeah, I would put it in the category of a survival technique. The problem is the survival technique is doing damage to the reputation of the Washington Post. It's undermining its credibility. It makes it appear that it's not independent. It's causing hundreds of thousands of subscribers to abandon their subscriptions, and that's I think deeply concerning. And my worry is that he's prioritizing his other business interests over the business interests of the Washington Post, and more importantly, the principles of the Washington Post.
Marty, to put the sharpest possible point on this, you have spent your career dedicating yourself to the right things in journalism. When the owner of your newspaper is compromised by business interests so much that he affects how the news is told, I would assume that that offends your core principles on what your identity has been for half a century.
Right. Well, I've always known you, Dan, to put the sharpest possible point on things. So, and it does offend my principles. It does offend, more importantly, it offends the principles of the Washington Post. The principles of the Washington Post date back to 1935. They're fixed to the wall as you walk into the newsroom of the Washington Post. The first principle is to tell the truth as nearly as the truth may be ascertained. And then there's principle number 5, which says that you're supposed to serve the public and not the interests of the individual, of the owner, of the commercial interests of the owner. So I worry when it appears that the owner is prioritizing his other commercial interests over the core principles and the core mission of the Washington Post. And by the way, I mean, the core principle is articulated quite well in the motto of the Washington Post, what Bezos himself has called a mission statement, not a motto, which is democracy dies in darkness. And that means that this news organization ought to stand up for democracy in every possible way. Most recently, with this decision not to run a wide range of opinions and in its opinion pages, in its opinion section digitally, to me is fundamentally undemocratic. The fundamental principle of a democracy is free expression. And newspapers like the Post have traditionally honored free expression by allowing a wide range of opinions on their opinion pages and in their opinion section. And to sort of say that really the only opinions that will be allowed here, that will be welcomed here, are opinions that are like mine, I think is fundamentally undemocratic.
Mr. Baron, we have all sorts of questions for you. 2 rooted in journalism, as you know that better than almost anyone, and another one just personality, a character judgment. As someone that oversaw Dan, recently we discovered that Dan's been a stir for the entire time of this radio show. I'm wondering, has he always been a stir?
I think there's a simple answer to that, and the answer is yes.
Cool. Now we have a couple of journalism questions.
There we go. Now that we've established that.
Do you think that it is journalistically responsible to take a story about Aaron Ekblad testing positive for PEDs, then play a several years old clip of Chael Sonnen alleging that LeBron James did PEDs, to Dan making that an entire show topic? Is LeBron on PEDs? Is that journalistically responsible?
Well, as Dan well knows, you're taking me down a lane that I know nothing about. So I think I'm going to pass on that question.
Okay,
Yes,
do we have the video of Dan banging the drum?
That's a victory for me. That's a victory for me.
How about this? How about a man who ostensibly covers a team in the local market, donning its jersey and
You're
banging
watching
a drum?
journalism die right here in front of you.
Not in darkness, but in front of 20,000 people.
In the lights of a champion. In the glorious lights of a champion. Marty, thank you for being on with us.
I have one more journalism question. Is it appropriate for a courtside reporter to give a fist bump after successfully interviewing Tyler Hero after a big game and a Heat win? Is that the proper reaction for just doing journalism?
Yeah, I think you've answered your own question here. So,
Okay. Marty,
And finally,
it's nice to see you. One last question. Is this a slurp?
is that a slurp? God. Wow, I'm beginning to feel like I'm back in the newsroom with you, Dan.
We just reported the news.
I thought I had left this world, but here I am back in it.
Marty, it was lovely seeing you, and I haven't told you nearly enough recently. Giant admirer of all your work, even post Miami Herald, which was somehow better than the work at the Miami Herald. Thank you, sir, for being on with us.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone.
Dan, you should have totally said, "Is this Chum Bucket?"
Chum Bucket.
Dude, there was a point in the middle of that, Dan, where Jeremy and I were putting in the nuclear launch codes of him just jumping in the middle and saying,
Josh Hart.
And then I waved him off because I said, quote, "I don't think we can actually have fun with this one. A nice dry interview gives us balance."
And you were right.
Is that a slurp?
Whittingham is mad at us. I don't.
As he should be.
I don't blame.
He did it.
He did do
then
it.
he denied doing
We
it.
seized on it.
But he denied doing it. I think that's key here. If he had been like, yeah, I had a little bit of drool in my mouth.
Cover up always worse than the crime.
Yep. He did it to himself.
Yeah, I owned the fist pump.
You haven't really. You were embarrassed by it.
I mean, I am embarrassed by it.
But you haven't confirmed the root source of it for sure. We don't know if it's a game winner, if it's a success.
No, the root source is pride in myself. Because like I said yesterday, I'm conceited.
I could watch this video of Jeremy fist pumping all day.
He actually looks pretty cool doing it.
I know
too.
I do. I don't know how you guys turned this thing.
Because it's a moment
that
of
is
vulnerability.
Cool.
That's
Is there a
all.
leg?
He looks so dorky. What are you talking
Is there a
about?
He
It's
looks
so
kind of
cool.
cool.
I'm in
No,
a
it's
cool
not-
suit.
It's cool he's on the court at a
couldn't be
basketball
less
game. You have
cool.
a cool job.
No, he
cool suit.
then just moves down to the top button on the suit. I mean,
and I'm
it is
handsome
a
and I'm eloquent.
It is a baseball closer after retiring the side.
Is there a leg kick there?
Are you just texting, repeating the affirmations your wife is texting
I'm
you?
going to therapy later, and my therapist is going to be really happy that I said these things on the air.
Hey, that test was great.
Thanks.
The thing about that walk is it is exactly how I would do it if I was acting, if I was asking an actor
Yep.
to produce something that would make that actor self-conscious if it were seen by others, because he's feeling a little too good about himself, a little too cheery, a little too positive about having done a job well that involves asking tall person.
You can notice at the end of the video, I'm so happy with myself and so full of charisma that I'm going to unbutton the button on the suit jacket.
Oh, I do notice
I'm
that.
letting loose.
Yes.
It's time to be good to go. I did my job. Job complete. Job well done. Fist pump.
That looks like someone who's about to put potato chip fingers in his mouth, pleased with himself, unbuttoning the jacket because he's happy about the job well done.
I earned my salt and vinegar.
Earned
Pirate.
his reward, a little bit of a reward there.
His bounty.
Salt and vinegar.
Me go
You
doubloons.
want to be careful there.
I know, complicated. I did it 4 times in my head before I said it out loud.
Really?
And I got
Glad
it.
you did that.
I got it. Arr. Let's just get the arr part.
You're fired.
Jessica, why is it that you feel like Miami and living in Miami now for 4 years or 5 years
4 years, Dan.
has made you deteriorate as a moral human being?
When I first moved here, I used to get very frustrated with how bad the driving is and how inconsiderate and impatient the drivers are. And it would really drive me crazy because you would have people, one of my biggest pet peeves is when you're in like the left turn lane or the right turn lane and the light just turns green and someone comes around you and turns around you in front of you. It's insane, and it's just
It's like
impatient.
a strictly Miami
From
thing.
from the other lane
From
or
behind
from behind
you.
you? Oh,
like
okay.
you're in line to turn left, and the car behind you cuts you off
Yeah.
and turns in front. It's so dangerous, and it
Yeah.
really just. This happens constantly. This isn't like, oh, I saw this happen one time. Like once a week I see someone does this to me. And it's starting to like really wear on me to the point where now I've become a really impatient driver because like now I'm dealing with all of these other impatient drivers all
One
the
of
time.
us.
So it's like starting to grate on me. And I realized this driving into work today. There was a bicyclist in the right lane on Biscayne. It's like a 4-lane. It's not a highway, but it's a busy
thoroughfare.
Busy thoroughfare. Like right out in front of the Kasaya Center. And he's going so slow. He's probably riding his bike like 4 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm behind him.
And what'd you do?
And I can't switch lanes because I have to turn into the parking garage.
Yes.
So I'm just going so slowly.
What'd you do?
Nothing. I didn't do anything.
Come on,
I didn't do
you
anything.
gotta mash that horn like there's no tomorrow.
But I felt my blood pressure rise into my my throat. My heart was beating in my face because I was so impatient, and it was like making me so angry. Even though I was like 30 seconds away from being at work. I was right here.
No.
But I can't I have no zen anymore, Dan. It's just completely worn me down as a human being. I have no zen when I drive. Everything just is making me so mad. I'm laying on my horn more. I'm yelling at people. I'm flipping the bird at people constantly.
That's also because you picked up a cocaine
Cheaters
habit,
never prosper.
which I can understand Miami being to blame.
I just am when I first moved here, I was like, oh my God, like these drivers are terrible. But I would just be patient and take my time and just be like, they're crazy. I'm not crazy. And now it's making me crazy. And if I lived here another 10 years, I would start cutting people off in the left lane because it's
Start doing
it's
going around them.
It's just the way of the roads here. It's insane.
Yeah.
It is all of those things. At LeBatard Show, Juju, please put it on the poll because are people leaning on the horn more often? Because I do believe this is a worldwide affliction that people are taking their anger into their cars. I also think that while everyone, I'm assuming, complains about traffic wherever it is that they live in big cities, I don't think that I can say that it's ever been close to what it presently is here, where not only do you have just overcrowding, impatience, anger everywhere, but the number of people dying on bicycles because this is supposed to be a place where people can ride their bicycles that has ceased being a place where people can ride their bicycles because they're angrily shooting the bird at each other in the road.
This has to be one of the least safe places in the world to ride your bicycle. I used to ride my bike in Manhattan every single day coming to and from work, like multiple miles a day. And it's not like it's very safe there, but I'd follow the rules of the road. And there were some areas like under the FDR where there's no cars. So like you knew you were probably not going to get hit, like fingers crossed. But here I would never, ever, ever ride a bike on the street.
To be fair, these bicyclists, entitled. Hey, man, don't act like there isn't death machines all around you. And you're like, I'm protected by the law. Like, these people don't care, man. And I don't. That's what I don't like. Like, I get it. Like, this is a bike lane or whatever. But also, you have to understand. But you know they could kill you at any moment, right? And once you have that appropriate fear, you start to bicycle a little bit differently. But they don't. They're like, I have the right of way. I'm like, okay.
There's a viral guy on social media that just drives around New York and he just screams at people if they're in the lane.
Yeah, I know that guy. But he's on an electric bike, too. By the way, if you're on an electric bike, guess what? You're not a bicyclist anymore. You're a motorist. Anything goes at that point.
Well, that's up, too. I've
Anything
seen
goes.
a number of people. I mean, the scooters
Anything.
and hospital scooter accidents and motorized bicycles, all of that stuff. I'm assuming that all of that stuff through Florida is higher than it's ever been. Pedestrian deaths, bicycle deaths, hospital accidents, scooter accidents.
I have heard that it's the opposite in New York. The 2 months of congestion pricing have drastically decreased the amount of pedestrian accidents because there's obviously fewer
Less
cars on the
yeah.
road. But I mean, to your point, I have issues with all of it. I think also drivers in Miami need to be aware they are driving a killing machine and they need to not put themselves and put other people at risk constantly doing these insane things. Yesterday, someone turned left into a traffic circle and almost hit me head on.
Nice.
A traffic circle, the universal place where you go right, other than in two countries.
In my defense, those are confusing.
You
It really
always
is.
turn right.
Yeah, but I don't like the right of way, and then you have these traffic circles that are multiple lanes. You know, in Paris, that's one place where car insurance doesn't work.
Yeah.
It does.
The Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, it doesn't. They don't have
That's
car
a disaster.
insurance
Oh, my God.
is allowed everywhere except
It's
for
it's
that
exhilarating,
area.
It's like a 7-lane highway.
No, it's not.
And it's just
into
a circle.
roundabout.
Man,
it's
I gotta
nuts.
Google it.
I've
I
been
don't know how right away works on that thing.
Dude, I've been trapped in the circle
I have
of death.
too, yes.
45 minutes of just going around. and
It's
around.
wild.
Now? Not yet. Okay, not yet.
But that's literally what people do at the Cocoa Plum Circle here. It's 2 lanes. It's 1 lane and then you turn.
Yeah,
it's
but
not that hard.
Cocoa Plum, though, is just...
Whoa.
Slurp.
Coco Plum is just one circle. What Amin is talking about here is 8 lanes of highway going in a circle.
Yeah, I can't even get the 1 lane down though. Like I'm screwed with 8.
I'm getting upset even talking about it. It's making me a worse person. I feel worse when I drive. I feel bad when I get to work in the morning. I feel bad when I get in my car to go home at night. I used to not commute in my car every single day, and I was a much happier person, but then I moved, and now I have to, and it's just really my quality. I can't imagine what Jer Bear and Chris and Greg and Stugotz feel every single day because they live the farthest.
Jessica,
it's horrible.
I have solutions for you. Number 1. The horn, use it and use it a lot.
Oh, I use it
Channel that
all
energy
the time.
right into your palm and then and the best one. Like I cannot condone someone getting out of the lane and around you at a left turn. That just sounds crazy. But what I can say is there are a few joys in life that are quite as exhilarating as watching that light and in the fraction of a second after it turns green, because I like seeing the head of the driver in front of me go.
Okay, well,
this
in
is
Miami,
why I
You're
don't
the
think you
worst.
like
no.
God, by
But
the way.
in Miami, 99% of people are just looking at their phones like this. Like I pull up, I honk at people when I see them looking at their phones all the time. Or if I'm walking across the street and someone's standing there on their phone, I wave at them. Like I look psychotic.
No way.
I wave at them and I'm like, put your phone down. You're going to hit a child.
Okay, now as a pedestrian, I got to warn you.
I know they're
You're
they're
playing
gonna-
a dangerous game.
They're going to.
You're playing but when you're in your death machine, absolutely honk your horn, do all sorts of things. Number 2, don't flip the bird. I found this out a long time ago. Flipping the bird does not give you joy. You know what gives me joy?
Arm flail?
No, not even. Oh, you know what I do? I antagonize, and then when they make eye contact, I do something passive aggressive, like hi.
Oh.
I just wave hi, thank you. Like I do that.
That is the move. If somebody, if
So
I
annoying.
ever do something,
You're right.
that somebody like the car pulls up next to me and they're like, you gotta smile. I'm
Hi.
just like, what? I'll just try to like, why would you be
A
upset?
real diffuser you are. How many lanes is the Champs-Élysées? How many?
Champs-Élysées.
Champs-Élysées,
the Arc de Triomphe roundabout.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
think it's
roundabout
8
feels
lanes.
like 14 lanes going on in a circle, but the actual Champs-Élysées I think is either three lanes or 4 lanes. It's not that wide.
Okay, I thought it was more than that.
It's not a highway. It's a street.
12 lanes of traffic, apparently. Wait, no.
No, that can't be right.
That can't be right. Champs-Élysées is an 8-lane road, 4 in each direction.
4 in each
the Arc
direction,
de
yep.
Triomphe roundabout is 12 lanes.
Yeah,
I don't.
Crazy.
I don't like to honk at somebody if I'm right behind them. But if I'm like a car separated, then I just let it rip. I feel weird.
I
Like
need a little protection.
Because I always feel like you always think the honk is like right behind you.
Yeah, I always try to do this with my hand. No, not for you, but for you.
Yeah.
No,
For the other
I
guy.
only do that. I get frustrated when the people in front of me don't know. It's your responsibility, car behind the slow guy. You're supposed to honk the horn. Now I got to do it. So if you're all scared, well, guess what? Even if there are 3 cars in front of me, if none of them have honked, guess what? I'm honking for all of you bastards because none of you guys took the responsibility.
But don't you see how our lives are just made so much worse by everyone being so angry that it makes otherwise not angry people angry? Like
No.
this is where I'm at. Like
It's the only
I had
time
a-
I'm angry.
I had a quality of life before I moved here, and now I'm in parking garages and I'm driving and my blood pressure is just getting hotter and hotter and hotter in my
Relax.
chest.
Let's relax a little bit. You're driving around in February and March, and there's no snow on the ground. It's beautiful.
Number
out.
1. Number 2.
Okay, it's not like it snows every day in the Northeast.
But it's miserable.
But it's
every
all-
day.
It snows like
over the
twice
place.
a winter.
We've had good
Cars always-
days.
And you don't drive
The last
there.
3 weeks have been crazy. Better here than anywhere in the United
We
States.
gotta
And-
figure it out these
and-
last few days, though. It's like 59 in the morning. It's impossible to dress for.
I'm with you. The
Seriously.
weather has been amazing the last 2 months. I will never, ever dispute that. I am, however, about to go to a doctor's appointment on Miami Beach where I have to show my driver's license to be able to park at my doctor's office.
Nice. Well, let me tell you something. Right now, what's happening is
Because of spring break. So someone listening to that's probably like, what is she talking about? There's like all these restrictions on parking and
They've ruined
Miami
it. They've
Beach.
ruined spring break. There's
so like
there's
you have to
nobody
prove
there.
you're a
Is it so hard
resident
to show ID?
to park somewhere.
you took all the anger in your life, residual angers from other things. You know, Chris is like,
I didn't
"Oh."
have this anger
Yes, you
before.
did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Just when I watched Notre
So
Dame football.
you're saying I'm secretly like really angry and I just let it out on the road?
Yes, it is the explosion
I don't think I'm angry.
of all. You don't think you're angry because what happens in your day-to-day life, little things happen.
I like the fat jokes.
Little things happen, and there you go. And you're like, oh, it's all right. It's okay. But it's not. But it's like what you're doing is you're being the bigger man, the much bigger man, and you're pushing all that stuff down. But guess what? That stuff has to go somewhere. It goes in a bucket that's called road rage. And then when you get in the car, it's no holds barred. You're not angry because this person is slow or that bike is slow.
No, I am, though.
You are, as all the anger of the day coming out in a geyser of just pure fury from the ground.
I disagree with that.
I just hate that this person doesn't know they can make it right on red.
Dude, I'm telling you, your reaction, do you think it's an overreaction by you?
Yes.
You know why it's an overreaction? Because your cup overfloweth.
No,
from
I
the anger
mean,
of the
because
day.
it's hot. The sun is beating down at me in my car. I'm tired. I've been in my car for an hour. It should have only taken 20 minutes to get where I want to go, but it's taken an hour, and I am beat down and exhausted, and now I'm dealing with this idiot. That's where the anger is. I could be doing anything else with my time. Those 40 minutes, I could be at Pilates class. No anger at all there. I could be walking my dog down the street, chasing a lizard. I could be sitting on my couch eating. I could be doing anything that gives me joy, and instead I'm in my car dealing with these.
She speaks.
I reported the news.
For all people who have been enraged in traffic. And I also think, and I can't get around this, I'm assuming that nobody wants to hear about our traffic problems. Nobody wants to hear about your traffic problems. I'm assuming that most people are saying to themselves, I don't have time for any of this. But it's worse than it's ever been. I've just never seen it like this.
There's a relatability to what we're talking about. I think everybody's been somewhere where there are traffic problems and had these feelings that Jess is espousing. And I'm explaining to them it's because you're a decent person in the rest of your life. And so you need somewhere where you can be a real piece of shit. And that's what the car gives us. The ability, the permission to be a real piece of shit. So next time you feel angry or frustrated in any other part of your life, don't take it out on your loved ones. Don't take it out on your coworkers. Wait till you get in the car and wait till somebody at a red light, it changes green, and that fraction of a second where they have not moved, and take all that anger and frustration from the rest of your life and channel it right into one massive...
Play video games.
No.
Play a game of pickup. Don't do it while you're in your car.
Incredible Hulk smash that horn.
Bang it!
It's just repressed feelings leaning on your... What is this is why I don't think you love God.
I love God.
You only get angry in the car.
Okay, this is just so wrong.
A little best of at the end
It's
here.
just so bad. Is that Chum Bucket?
Tetas?
It's the height of winter, but it's also a great time to gather with friends and enjoy some Miller Lite. That's right, Miller Lite has the taste you know you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just that beautiful white can and a great tasting beer for people like you and me who love the taste of beer. Because Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than other light beers, with simple ingredients like malted barley for rich, balanced toffee note flavors and that iconic golden color that we all know and love. And here's the most important part for me. I mean, I like all the things, but 96 calories and just 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces, Miller Time is always a good time. The original light beer since 1975 and still the very best one. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Tastes like Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
I want complaints. I want commentary. I want critiques. Juju Gotti is listening to the show throughout the show. He is listening to our fans throughout the show. What are they complaining about today, Juju? What did I get wrong today?
I mean, I would like to, first of all, it's good to see all of y'all. I'm always honored to be here. You dig it? I want to kind of go back a couple of days because how propaganda is started just like this. This is a great example of how propaganda is started. I listened to my beautiful, illustrious brother Mike, and I listened to my beautiful, illustrious brother Dan, and said, Righteous Gemstones, I.P.U. that first episode. And so I was like, you know what? I'll wait till next week and watch it. But then after yesterday's show, Jessica and Amin was like, no, not so fast, my friendly Corso style. I watched it and I was locked in the entire episode. Bradley Cooper did a wonderful job of showing how this whole Gemstone scam was started. Dare I say, it was magnificent. Not just a war piece, an informative piece, sirs.
I appreciate the perspective, and I'm all for like zigging while zagging. Like I like that they have occasionally done some episodes that are unexpected. It's just, you know, I like it because it's funny, and I know that they're trying to lay the foundation. I feel like you could do that and also tell a joke.
It was funny. It was hilarious.
It was a dark comedy.
Yeah.
I like dark comedies. I know what they're going for, and it didn't work. You would think it would work with me. I didn't feel it.
That's fine.
You're watching too much hockey. Everything's so straightforward.
Team Juju and Amin, though.
I believe that all of the best stuff that gets made these days, I don't believe any of it gets universal applause. The people who are taking the chances are the ones that are getting those conversations going, because we have a standard of expectation that is higher than most for the best things that are made. So it's only the greatest compliment. I see that Danny McBride is making the rounds everywhere now, doing interviews. Well, he is somebody who's graduated. He's been wanting to make a war movie since Tropic Thunder. Like that's where he started to break out, and that's what he did with the first. Did we do Thursday Thunder Day? We haven't done Thursday Thunder.
Let's do it, Dan.
What are we waiting for?
Tropic Thunder.
That's right. It's Thursday Thunder, and it's brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Juju?
Man, if you tuned in to Thursday Thunder last week, I apologize from my heart to your heart. I had 3-leg parlay. Of course, 2 of them hit easily. The third leg of the parlay was a sham, a travesty. I demand justice. Brandon Podziemski over 12.5 points. He played 44 seconds into the game and went out with a back spasm, not to return the entire game. And that's how we lost Thursday.
I'm sorry,
last
Juju.
week. Exactly. I'm sorry more. But this week, we're going with a single game parlay, and we're traveling to Milwaukee, Amin's favorite town, where they dunked him in the tank over and over again. First leg, I'm going Giannis Antetokounmpo, 13-plus rebounds, over 13 rebounds against your Los Angeles Lakers.
I like it.
And the second leg, I'm going with the tall brother, the twin himself, Brook Lopez, for over 12 points tonight against the centerless, if you ask me, Lakers. Even though he's a big man that hangs around the three-point line, I think it's going to be a lot of cookies available around that monster of a goal tonight for Brook Lopez. Over 12 points for my brother. And the last leg, Heat legend, Heat, I was going to say Heat Mafia, but Heat Culture Mafia disciple, Gabriel Vincent. You dig it. We're going over 10 points for him tonight, because they're going to need scoring from somewhere, and it ain't going to be Jared Vanderbilt. Watch it be Jared Vanderbilt.
The Lopez
Those
brothers.
are your thunders.
I thank you. The Lopez brothers, I think, have a home on the Disney World property, which just seems magical as 7-footers who are giant toddlers.
They live in Celebration?
So here's the deal. Before they ever made the NBA, they had a family trip to Disneyland every single year. Their mom and their brothers, they would go to Disneyland every single year. And when they got drafted and they got money, it became a yearly trip to Disney World. When Brooke signed his extension, his rookie extension, then he had real money. It was like, I'm buying one of them houses that's on Disney property down in Orlando.
Not medieval times, though. Interesting.
Not medieval times.
Did we find out how many medieval times there are in the United States? Did we
9.
ever? There can't be that.
Is that yes or no?
No.
Yet.
Juju, do you have anything for us in the way of commentary on today's show? Any of the subject matter land poorly or well?
Oh, you knocked your mic out, buddy.
The last conversation we were having, the last conversation we was having, I'm going to be depressed on that for like the next 2 days, so sorry about that.
It'll be cleaned up.
Literally going to have
It'll
a
be
bad
cleaned
weekend
up. It'll be
because
cleaned
of
up.
that. It's
Now it will
okay.
have to be.
I was gonna lean into it.
In which Dan saying it'll be cleaned up will make 0 sense.
Well, I gave it to. I told Dan I'll clean it up, and I was trying to help, but then it got out on the air,
Now
and
we
now
should
here
leave
we
it
are.
in.
Now here we are.
We're gonna leave all of it.
Leave all of it in. It's all of my fault, as usual. And just to remind people, if you listen to these post-game shows and you're taking anything serious, remember, I am a comedian. I identify as a comedian. So take my words with a grain of salt that you take Andrew Schultz's and you take Big J. Okerson's. But I was listening to you guys' last conversation about road rage, and I have the kind of opposite opinion of road rage. One of my New Year's resolutions is to not show road rage one bit at all this year, because newsflash, we live in crazy times, bros and sisters. Like, sometimes you road rage against somebody, or you honk your horn to somebody who's having a worse day than you are, a worse life than you are, and is on the edge. So I think Amin's advice, while valuable, I don't agree with it at all. You honk your horn at the wrong person, you're getting your rearview mirror chopped off by a guy. Now you got to deal with that. The unfortunate solution is to just be the change you want to see in the road. You got to refer back to your life and just think about how blessed you are to live the life you live versus the life of a construction worker or a forklift driver. Salute to the forklift drivers and construction workers, but those brothers have it hard. We get blessed to talk in the microphone these days. Oh my goodness, imagine that happening to you.
There is the rear view mirror chop in the streets of Miami across the street from us. Juju did not like that video the first time that it appeared. I will say, though, that Amin is indeed wrong when he says that the vehicle should be a vessel for huge resentment, a tube for your displeasures, and that the way that you should engage with others is by leaning on your horn aggressively. You are asking for a fight in Miami.
I'm just saying that if you don't do it in there, you're going to do it somewhere else and to someone that you care about. And that's
not
good.
if
You
you're
do
not,
it in
not,
therapy.
not
You go to therapy and you talk to your therapist about this stuff. You work out these problems. You don't have to have a release. You don't have to let it out on someone one day and then regret letting it out later. But you are right about pedestrians, though, because even if you have the right of way as a pedestrian, if I hit you with my car, your life goes right away. So just please don't look both ways before you cross the street.
There you go. Good advice. Cyclists throughout South Florida, don't die in the street. What polls do we have to update here, Juju?
Today's polls are: did Whitty slurp?
That seems obvious.
Chris Slurpingham. 94% of the audience says yes, he slurped. Dang.
We
sorry,
ruined his big day.
He did a fantastic job yesterday too, man. You too, Jeremy. More embarrassing, a Jeremy Taché fist pump or a Whittingham slurp? 53% of the audience says a Whittingham slurp.
Oh, thank God.
It's
That was a tight one, though.
It's particularly funny because he's such a professional. He's horrified by making that sound publicly. He tried to deny it.
He was frozen.
He said, I inhaled. I was just an inhale. Come on, man. That's too wet to be an inhale.
Hey, yo, would you rather your partner always talk in medieval Old English or pirate slang? 56% of the audience said pirate slang.
Arr.
Arr.
Arr. The eyes had it.
What? And are people leaning on the horn more these days? Well, we haven't. This just never has happened before in the history of the show.
No.
50% of the audience says yes,
that's not
and
possible.
50% of the audience says
That's
no.
not in any way true.
Those are your polls.
Lying.